Three, two, one.
Hello, guys and girls, and welcome to episode 47 of the VR Inside podcast. This is a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show that is live streamed every Saturday on Nathies YouTube channel. You can tune into the show live now at the new times of 7 p.m. in Europe, 6 p.m. in the UK, and 12 midday in Central US. If you missed the live stream, you can catch up with the whole show as I re-upload it every Sunday to my own YouTube channel at Virtual Reality Oasis. Or you can check out the audio version, which is available on Google Play Music, iTunes, and on SoundCloud. Just a quick reminder that the show is rebranding, and we announced that in last week's episode. The show will be called F Reality in the future and will continue to be broadcasted at the same times, but now on our dedicated YouTube channel, F Reality. There is a link in the description down below, so you can go and subscribe if you like the show, and we'll be going live there on the 11th of August. But today, if you've got any questions, comments, or feedback during the show, please put them in the chat and we'll try to answer as many questions as we can. But if you're new to the show, let me introduce you to the awesome team. First up, he is our very own little Star-Lord. It is, of course, Nathie. How you doing, dude? You all right?
Yes, I'm doing alrighty tighty, and yeah, I am the Star-Lord of this united power we have, right?
You look like him a little bit. I think you've got like the blonde hair, you know. You wear the jacket.
I'm as crazy as Star-Lord in a way, I think, especially when I'm excited.
I would still like to see you dance, though. I still want to see that.
Yeah, we need to see the moves. We're waiting, by the way.
I don't have any music. Like I can play a track here, like a shitty flute Guardian of the Galaxy track if you want.
No.
I don't think you want to hear that.
Spare us all, please.
I will. Don't worry.
So next up, this guy loves nothing more than to throw his webs around. It is, of course, a Spider-Man. Rowdy guy,
Really?
how you doing, dude? You all right?
Really? That is the introduction that I'm getting now? Throwing my webs. What do you actually mean with that?
Tosser.
No, I'm all right. I'm a little bit hot. You know, I got a little bit of a headache because of all of this heat. But no, I'm actually all right for the rest. Yeah, virtual reality, you know, keeps me alive.
Yeah, well, you know, talking about keeping you alive, you should be a stunt double as well, because you've been pushing the limits of your your transport, right? Check this out.
You need to take a picture of that, Rowdy, and then you just do a large, like, long portrait, and you print it and you put it on your wall, and you just tell people it's modern art.
Yeah. So for the audio listeners, you know, I don't want to leave you guys out. Rowdy just showed a really big bruise on his hip, but maybe you can tell us all how that actually happened, dude.
It's so stupid. Like I bought like this little electrical scooter because I kind of want to get around faster, and I was like, you know, can I go like Casey Neistat on this thing? Can I you know, make movies and film around on this thing? So I was like, I took my phone out. I was driving at like maybe, I don't know, 20 kilometers an hour. And I was like, oh yeah, this works pretty great. And then there was, I'll never forget it, this very, very small dent. Like it wasn't big, it was just a few centimeters deep. And I went in there and I came out, but my wheels twisted and I flew over the wheels. And yeah, I'm glad I didn't land on my head or something, because that could have been worse. But I kind of turned a little bit in the air and I hit a tree, I think, or something. The tree was all right.
Casey Neistat career is over.
Yeah, exactly. No. I'll find another way to do it.
I'm glad you're all right. I'm glad you're all right in the end. So next up, moving on. Some may say he's strange, but to you, he's Doctor Strange, and that is Zimtok5. How you doing, dude? You all right?
That's a beautiful character for me, Mike. I think it fits
kind of
like
look
a hand in a
with
glove.
With the beard and everything. You could be him, man.
I could be him. I wish I knew more about him. As a guy who, like, I started collecting Marvel cards at 8 years old, and then got ripped off from a guy who wanted to steal. He took all my good cards and traded me DC Universe cards. I mean,
oh man,
is there a lower crime? I don't.
What a scumbag!
What a scumbag! I'm gonna get you, Timmy. I'm gonna get you.
I'm gonna find you, dude. We're gonna take those cards back.
I'm good. Miffed
good
at Timmy.
Good. So I decided if I was going to be a Marvel character this week, I would be Rocket Raccoon, and that's because I have dark circles under my eyes like a raccoon. I like to eat junk food. I'm small and chubby, and I stay up all night. So pretty much, you know, a raccoon would be my spirit animal, I think.
That sounds like a full-time VR YouTuber to me.
It is. That is, the struggle is real. You know it more than anyone else.
We all have circles under our eyes. Look at that.
Yeah,
Look at that.
Yeah. Got to get that grind in. But anyway, enough of us. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about Marvel Powers United VR. We're going to be discussing our thoughts and the future of this hero brawler. We're going to be talking about Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice in VR. A pleasant surprise from Ninja Theory this week that Hellblade is getting VR support. And then finally, we're going to be talking about the mixed reality flashlight view. This new handy tool will let you see the real world around you whilst in VR. So we've got some cool topics for you today. But we're going to start the show off with what everyone's been playing in VR this week. So let's kick it over to Nathie first to find out what he's been playing, other than Senua's Sacrifice and Marvel United, because obviously we're going to save those topics for later.
Of course. So yeah, there was only one left that I played, and that is Titanic VR. The early access is almost over. As far as I know, the full game comes out next month. And Titanic VR is basically a educational game. So you can learn about the history of the Titanic. You can actually walk the decks. You go back to the past. You can talk to the passengers, the crew, witness the sinking, you know, everything together. But also you can dive into the shipwreck of the Titanic, and that's something else. That's something new, and that's what I tried. So the early access part that you can play now is only the part where you can jump into a submarine and then go inside the Titanic. And the main objective is you have to collect, like, you know, stuff from within the ship, and that can be perfume, a document, or something else. So you're collecting for the families that are still trying to honor the Titanic, so you're helping them out by doing research. It's really cool, and you learn a lot about the Titanic because they play like the audio tracks of the survivors while you're like while you are on the water. It's kind of spooky too, man, like being inside the Titanic. And it's super dark. Like the first time I tried it, I was like, I hope there is no shark in here. I hope there is no whatever, you know, trying to jump scare me. But it's an educational experience, so you should be fine. But you still get that like tense feeling where you're like, I need to be careful. I don't know what's inside. And you're just like, you need to dive through the corridors. It's all very narrow. And yeah, it's amazing. And I can't wait for like the actual like time travel where you can talk to the people, you know, and be a passenger yourself. So yeah,
very cool. And Zim, you've actually met the developers of this title, right?
Yeah, I stalked them outside of their studio in Waterford, in Ireland. And I took pictures.
That's how we know him.
Until they left me in, you know. The cool team. The most surprising thing to me was the education team. 40 of them. I was like, wow. Damn, you guys. I mean, they started. I talked to the CEO, and he started like 3-4 years ago off of €1,000, like out of his own pocket, and now he's got a team of 40 doing a VR only, you know, thing. It's amazing. Like they've been doing bits for the BBC. They did this app. They did obviously the previous title, which was Apollo, which was a huge piece. But I suppose to me, aside from the app and having seen kind of bits of what Nathie's played and some of the prefabs and, you know, people on the deck, and actually populated very much like the movie, right? If you think about the Titanic film, and I think that's kind of a good cornerstone. I still have guilty pleasures with games, you know, particularly educational apps. I mean, there's a GTA side of my brain that just goes, you know, push the women and children off the edge, you know, and I just, there's certain things as a gamer.
No, wait, Sim.
I want to be able to do these things.
The coolness with how you said that, you just went like, I just want to push the women and children off.
Yeah,
that's what I want to do. You were so cool when you said that.
You know, Doctor Strange, you know, that's all. That's all.
Yeah. Cool. But no, it's interesting to hear about the background, and certainly, you know, games that mix sort of gameplay and education, I think are going to play a really important role in the future for sure. But yeah, definitely an interesting one to check out. So what about you, Rowdy? Did you play much this week?
The only thing I played was Marvel Powers United, so I guess we'll leave that for a later discussion. I didn't have a lot of time. Was, you know, riding around my scooter, getting into accidents and stuff.
Okay, fair enough. So what about you, Zim? What have you been playing this week, dude?
I played a plus version of a game that I've played before. and I was surprised by it. But now, like most plus sizes things means, a bit fatter, right? And this one was the same. So it was accounting plus. The only other option, if you were trying to guess, was probably Thumper's Play Plus mode, which I actually did do a bit of that as well. But accounting plus there's a lot more to it than I was expecting there to be. I was expecting it would be basically accounting copy pasted over to PSVR with maybe an intro bit. But they have, I would say it's 150 to maybe 175% of the content of the original accounting. And if you have played the original accounting, you have a PSVR, I think it's totally worth the money to pick it up again. There's some really great scenes. It's really gritty as well. You guys know my humor. And, there's death in there. There's a lot of swearing. It's a classic Squanch Tendo title. And you get I'm not going to say any spoilers, but there are things you get to do in that even I shudder at. And
wow.
It was a fun week.
Even
What's
you?
that?
Can you push people in the game?
No, you can't push people, Nathie. Nope, you can't push people at all.
Is there anything like that's what I remember of accounting? Something where you can get really like aggressive from,
No,
something...
I think there's not really much you can do. I would say that.
Okay.
Really, get into stuff, but
well, Rowdy's repping the Squanch Tendo shirt today. So.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Yeah,
that was perfect. We totally.
Yeah, you're in sync. You're in sync. Yeah, our Menzies are all in sync now. But like one of the favorite things about accounting was like, there's the bit where you just go into like a wood and it's all serene. And you're like, oh, this is really nice, relaxing wooded environment. And then this little dude pops out of a tree and just abuses you for a straight 20 minutes. Like he doesn't even breathe.
It's my tree, mate. No, you're going away. What are you doing? What are you doing? It's my tree.
I want that guy as my neighbor. Like, do you ever have a neighbor who just like doesn't say anything and they just kind of mind their own business? Yeah. And you're like, you want some character in your neighbor so that you can tell stories about your crazy neighbor? Like, I want that dude as my neighbor.
Yeah, I wouldn't want him as my neighbor at all. No, but yeah, I'm glad that you enjoyed it. So there is way more content than the original game for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. So this week I'm going to be talking about a game called Hero Bound, and it's a game that sort of has really stood out for me this week more than any of the other big sort of AAA games that I've played this week, and that's because it's actually a game that I want to go back and continue to play. So
that's a long one.
This game is actually made by Gunfire Games, the same team that brought you Dead and Buried and From Other Suns. And I'm actually playing this on the go, by the way. So, it's been great to play it on the go because I can go downstairs. It's been a lot cooler downstairs. We live in the basement, so it's a lot colder down there than up here in the loft where the office is. This game originally released on Gear VR. So it's like actually 2 years old now, believe it or not. But it was one of the most popular Gear VR titles and just one that completely missed me when, the Rift first came out without the touch controllers, because it was a very popular game back then as well for just using the Rift and a gamepad. And I would describe it as a sort of a Zelda light game in VR. It's got this story about sort of 5 spirits that have united that sort of support the world. And then one of the spirits, being the fire spirits, gets upset and sort of breaks free and wants to ruin it for everyone else. So you'd kind of take the control of this like tiny little troll character from a sort of top-down view. And you sort of clear rooms and enemies and solve puzzles, which the puzzle bits are actually quite challenging for a game that looks kind of simple, but the puzzles are really sort of challenging and satisfying. But yeah, it has a really rewarding sort of gameplay loop as well, where you're sort of constantly finding a new weapon or upgrading a new ability or being able to access a new area, like the sort of Zelda sort of gameplay loop. So I'm really enjoying it so far. It's maybe about sort of 3 hours in, but one that I would definitely recommend if you've got a Go and a controller, because obviously you need a controller for this, like a gamepad. So you'll need like an Xbox One S controller or like the SteelSeries Android VR controller. But it's like $7.99 on for British pounds on the Oculus Store, or $9.99 US dollars. But yeah, if you're looking for a title that you're really going to sink some hours into, then Hero Bound is one that I would definitely recommend.
And you're connecting that to like A Link to the Past, right? Like the older Zeldas, not the newer ones.
Exactly, the older ones for sure. I would sort of akin it to sort of a Link Awakening or A Link to the Past, something like that. That's kind of similar sort of era.
Because you kind of go from like room to room in that one. I've beaten it, but it took me maybe 16-20 hours. It's not a short game.
Oh, really? It took you that long? That's really interesting to hear that. That's really interesting to hear that. It's good to hear that it's got a lot of content, but certainly it's been the one that's kind of kept on drawing me to go back and play some more. And it you can just sink in like 20 minutes, half an hour, and then,
it was a launch title on Rift, actually. It came out like it landed the day the Rift was out. It was one of the few things out, and it was only like a $5. It wasn't very expensive. And later, about 2 years, maybe 2 years later, they launched it as free, so you could just play it for free. And I was always interested in that move when companies do that and they release an older title. I didn't see them progress and release something else. I believe on Go, correct me here if I'm wrong, Mike, but I believe there's 2 versions of Hero Bound. There's the one that is basically single player, and then there's a multiplayer one, which is more, I would call it Diablo-esque. I haven't played it yet, but I'm quite keen to, having beaten the first game.
Yeah, exactly that. Like when I searched for it on the store, I saw 2 versions of it, and you're right, there is a multiplayer version as well, but I haven't checked it out yet. But maybe, you know, I've enjoyed this one so much that maybe I will go back and check it out. But yeah, you know, it's nice to see that some of these older games are getting like a second lease of life, you know, on the go. But it's a shame that they're just so hidden amongst all the crap that's on the store. There's so much rubbish on there. It's unreal. And I just wish people could search for highest rated games, because it's one of the highest rated games in the store right now. So there we have it. That is Hero Bound. So go and check that one out if you're interested in a long game on the go. But let's move into some quick news right now. And the first up is the Steam VR is getting some updates. So a couple of days ago, Valve posted some interesting updates on their Steam VR sort of community page within Steam. And they've announced 3 new maps, a new asset pack system, and general quality of life improvements to Steam VR. So one of the maps that they've actually featured in this update seems really interesting. It's actually a supervillains lair. So it's actually quite big in terms of a map. It's got labs, it's got tunnels, electric fences. It's even got alligators in there. So, you know, if you love alligators, go and check it out. But from the clip, you actually have to explore the environments to get to certain parts of it, which are locked off. You actually need 2 players to push a button at the same time. So they're actually forcing people to sort of explore these maps together. So if you go in there with a friend, you know, in this supervillains lair, there's a door with 2 buttons, and if you push that together, then it leads you to somewhere secret. And apparently, if you search around enough, you can unlock a Team Fortress 2 mini turret that you can have as a collectible item and then put it in your own Steam VR home, which is kind of cool. But they've also updated the new standard home environment as well, and they've added more virtual real estate, so you can add more items in there, sort of decorate it a bit more. There's now a waterfall and a cozy fireplace as well, so if you want to get a little bit intimate down by the fire with your friend in VR, then you can do that now. So this update is rolling out right now, so if you want to go and check it out, you can go and explore it with your friends. So I thought that was a nice little bit of news for you, especially after we checked out Oculus Home recently. You know, it's nice to see that there's more of these sort of social things going on you can explore with your friends, which is kind of fun. So in the next bit of news, we're going to be talking about Megaton Rainfall. So that game has just been announced that it's coming to PC VR. The developers called, let me just get this right, Pentadimensional announced that oh man, I got the name right and I got the game wrong.
It's Megaton
Rainfall will be coming to Oculus and Steam VR next month on the 9th of August. So the game originally launched as a timed exclusive for PSVR, and it launched in October late last year. And if you don't know about the game, it's described as a first-person hero simulator. And I think Rowdy played quite a bit of this game because you've talked about it on the show before, right?
Yeah, it's I played it on the PlayStation actually. I played it back there, but I know that the PC version there was also just the 2D version of this, right?
There is, yeah, that's right.
That you can also visit like different kind of planets and that kind of stuff. I actually don't know if that was possible on the PlayStation version because I actually never tried going to a different planet. I just thought I was only the planet I was on. So I'm actually quite curious what they're gonna do for the VR version now. Is it going to be like the full PC game that was there, or is it going to be a mod from the PlayStation one? So, I'm quite interested in this.
The cool thing now, though, is that now it's on PC VR is that you're going to have full motion controls. So, you know, you can really interact with stuff because it was a controller game on PSVR, right?
Yeah.
And also, like, if you have it on PSVR, is that you're going to get an update to use the Move controllers as well. So you're not left out.
Oh,
you
that's
can
cool.
Sort of interact with stuff as well. Yeah.
It's like a Superman game, right? Like
exactly, but not like the N64 one, like a good one.
But it so is not like, I mean, if you play that game for even a couple of hours, and I've put about 10 hours into it. Like you get to the point where you're not a super guy. Every time you miss a shot, you blow up the fucking planet and everybody dies. Like you are a super villain. Like you might think you're Superman, but you're like a drunk Superman. And every so often you're just wiping out 10,000 people and everyone's crying. and there's a megaton explosion go off. It's actually really fun. The thing I wonder is with the PC changeover, like, will it actually hold up graphically? Because the graphics on PSVR are a little bit, I won't say shoddy, but kind of like to a blurred texture side, which goes fine on PSVR. They kind of get away with it. But when they make that conversion, like we saw, Skyrim shines beautifully with that, post-conversion, but that was very much developed, with the high texture in mind. I wonder. I do wonder. Given that
I do have to say, like,
version, then that's good news.
I do have to say, with the controller that I played with, just the gamepad, it was very hard to ensure that nobody died. Like, literally impossible, because you, with the thumbstick, trying to control where you're aiming at, like all those things that are flying around, is not easy. Not easy at all.
Motion controls, it should be more intuitive, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So this game is called Megalodon Rainfall.
Oh my god. Megaton Rainfall.
MechWarrior?
Megaton. A megaton is a metric unit.
He's trolling us now. But basically, if you look at the trailer,
that's not fair. Now I always sound like I'm a troll. Well, I kind of am. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So if you check out the trailer, which we probably played at some point during this, like the graphics do look very nice indeed, and what really interested me was the destructible environment. So like Zim mentioned, if you miss the enemies, then you're going to blow up like a tower block. Wow. And the way it kind of crumbles and falls looks really satisfying, and the way you can fly through the air, through the landscapes looks really satisfying as well.
That is really cool. The flying around is one of the coolest thing to do, because it flows like so smoothly. There's no, because I think it's like partly procedural, since when you go from one place to another, it's so cool to see, like, there's no loading screen or anything. You just go through, and the things like are there. Like, that is so awesome. I really like that.
The thing it reminds me of, for those who know the Horizons pack for Elite Dangerous, which allows you for planetary landings, it's very similar to that, but at 20 times the speed. Like, whereas in Elite it takes you 20 minutes to land, this takes you literally 20 seconds, maybe 10 seconds. It's very fast, but it's comfortable speed. It's not uncomfortable. And I think they do that because the clouds and the motion that goes past you acts as an anchor. And so I've never felt uncomfortable, in it. And I think that's the coolest part about it, is that it's comfortable speed.
We got a comment in the chat, but could you imagine Megalodon Rainfall? I'd play that.
It's rated sharks.
From Fluke Roji, it's raining sharks. I would play that as well.
Sharknado the game.
Yeah, definitely.
I was actually trying to announce my first game, and it didn't work out. You guys thought it was a joke, but
it is. So if you're interested in Megaton Rainfall, that game will be coming out on the 9th of August for Oculus and Steam VR. Megalodon Rainfall, who knows? It's for Nathy to announce in a future episode.
Still have to wait a bit for that one. Like, they already started a hashtag. Yimbo Slice says, hashtag make Sharknado the game.
Sharknado the game, I don't know how many Sharknado movies there's been now. I think it's like 4, is it now? 4,
I think it's the 4th one.
Yeah,
definitely 3, because I've seen 3.
But it has no VR experience yet. So I mean, that's why I come into the game now, because
they're missing the boat.
Missing the boat. We need to patent that straight away. Okay. So let's move on to Rec Room squads. So Rec Room Royale was a really cool sort of update to Rec Room. We all had a blast playing that. We all sort of jumped in, had a lot of fun, sort of cleaning up and getting that Scouts Honor Award. But the developers are updating the game again. They're so persistent with these updates. It's incredible. And this update, they've changed it so you no longer have a single player mode as such, so you can't go in solo anymore. They've actually changed that so you can only play as squads. So I think they either automatically pair you up or you pair up yourself. I'm not quite sure how it works, but you basically get paired in squads of 3, and then you're up against the other squads to fight it out. But the interesting thing is they've also added a knockdown mechanic. So now when you get shot, you don't get necessarily killed instantly. You get knocked down first, which gives your squad mates an opportunity to come and help revive you and bring you back into the fight again.
That's good.
So a lot like other sort of battle royale games, you've got this kind of down but not out sort of style mechanic. And the other cool thing is that they've added is that now you can communicate over radio. So if you and your squad get broken up, you don't have to be right next to each other to communicate. You can communicate over radio now, which is kind of a neat little feature as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
So on the internet, Rowdy, they get to talk to you in your ear.
Yeah. I'll mute myself.
Sorry.
I'll just mute.
Yeah.
Mute everything, everyone.
I'd love to jump in and play this with you guys, because I know a lot of you guys were playing it when the update originally dropped. But I think we kind of all were playing at different times. Sometimes we were playing together, sometimes we were playing against each other. But to actually team up as a squad,
like, I wouldn't mind playing with you guys like that. That I don't mind.
So sometimes we were playing together with each other muted, not knowing that we were muting.
It's true.
Blaming the other one for the problem,
For some reason, I had blocked Zim. I don't know how that happened.
I know how that happened.
Okay.
I know how that happened because we played the pirate thing before that together, but we used Discord as voice chat. So to use Discord, we muted each other in the game. That was it.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
But I think that with this new squads update, Rowdy doesn't need to worry anyway, because like age limit accounts are muted anyway. So
doesn't matter.
The real this week.
Young as ever, Nathie. Young as ever.
Like now Zim is like the last one.
Take him off the list. Yeah.
Maybe I should also roast myself then.
If you've got a roast for Nathie, just check him in the chat.
Roast me. Please roast me in the comments.
I'll read them out.
Just put him in the sun, lads.
Yeah, exactly. His weakness, sunlight. Okay, so moving on, we're going to be a final little bit of quick news, and that is the wireless Vive module leak. So this is like real fresh, off the heat, like off the pan, straight into your eyeballs and your ears. So Vive wireless module apparently is going to be releasing on the 3rd of September this year, and it's going to be available for $299. Now, there was a page that went up from B&H Photo and Video, and they accidentally leaked the information. The page was up for a short amount of time, but everyone sort of managed to grab the information, post it on Reddit, and it's been taken down since. But having a look at this, the price point is kind of expected, really, because it's the same price point as the TP Cast is right now for the Vive and the Oculus Rift. So if you're interested in a wireless module, then the September 3rd is the date for you to put in your diary, because it'll be interesting to see how this one performs up against the TP Cast. I've been using the TP Cast for quite some time on my Rift, but I did a detailed video about it. I really enjoy the fact that it's wireless, but it was a pain in the backside to set up. And you also had to use third-party software to get it working well. So I kind of didn't recommend it.
That will definitely not be the case probably with the Vive module, that there will be any third-party software involved. And also, I think they use a PCIe slot to plug in the antenna.
Right.
So I mean, it
cool.
looks good. It looks good. Yeah.
Yeah, because obviously the TP Cast.
Then it's gonna be like
and that's the thing. It needs to be easy. It needs to be easy for sure. Because like with the TP Cast, you had to set up a separate router, and then you needed a separate Ethernet port on your motherboard to run that router separately from your internet connection, and there was just a lot going on. But once you got it up, it was like solid. I think it's a great bit of kit, but I still can't recommend it really at its current price point and the fact that it takes a lot of work to get it set up. But it'll be very interesting to see how this one performs. Indeed, I'm really curious about it.
Must be. I'm really curious about how the form factor is going to look. I don't know that I've seen a picture of this.
So it looks like almost like a samurai's helmet. It's kind of got these like
that one.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
it's like with the Vive logo on top. It's like Vive brand.
I'll look for a picture to show the chat as well.
Yeah, sure. And the other cool thing about this is that not only is it going to work on your OG Vive, but it's also going to work on the Vive Pro as well, which is impressive for wireless technology to be able to push that sort of resolution at that sort of latency to the headset. So I'll be really intrigued by this one. I tried
it at like E3, and it was great. But I mean, like in the long term, you don't know. Like after a couple of hours as well. Like when I spoke to this guy from Bethesda, he said like I like this thing. But in the long run, when the battery is kind of like getting hotter and hotter, you start to kind of, notice some things. He said like at the start, it's always performing better. And then, so I don't know, let's see when it comes out of the box, how easy is it to plug everything in? Is there like something on the screen you need to install? How easy is that? Like everything together. So
yeah, sure. Like certainly from my experience with the TP Cast, like the transmitter and the receiver that's on your head do get a little bit warm. So especially in this heat, you're adding more heat to your setup.
That's why it has those horns, I think, to kind of like,
dissipate the heat a little bit, maybe.
I think it's more to like get away
with like steam coming out of these like
You think they're more for antennas, Rowdy, you were about to say?
To increase your range.
And Zim, I'm intrigued. Like, have you changed your mind on this sort of technology at all?
Definitely not.
Okay.
Call me when you get brain tumors, Mike.
I will. I look forward to you visiting my bedside.
We're not having this discussion again.
I will donate and all that, but yeah, I think
mean,
it's too early to be strapping high bandwidth signals to your head right now. I think it's,
Do you have a
it's
phone
not the
though?
right decision.
Do you have a phone?
Yeah.
That's not the same frequency.
Oh, yeah, this is gonna go like around circle.
You don't
like
want to go
last
down this road again. I know we've talked about this.
It's non-ionizing. It's non-ionizing.
So Nathies demonstrating exactly what it looks like, you know, on your head.
What is that?
He's going to be like Zim is the model for Oculus. Nathan's going to be the model for HTC now.
That's beautiful, Nathan.
But I'd love to know people's thoughts in the chat as well, because you know, obviously we've got contrasting opinions on this, whether it's kind of safe or whether it's too new technology.
But nobody knows if it's safe. That's the thing. Like, but there's no research available at this point that can prove that this is harmful, just because the effect would be so small. And when an effect is so small, you can't make a research group that is like neutral, that has no influence on that. So it's almost impossible to prove that it's harmful. And that is a problem.
You're gonna be so jealous, Sim, where I grow like superpowers and become like Magneto or something like that. I mean, just control things in my mind.
I think that was Professor X, Mike, and you're pretty much already there.
Yeah, I am. I just need a wheelchair now. That'd be cool. Could be. That should be my cosplay. Anyway, moving on. This is getting weird. Okay, so I just want to add a new little feature, actually, which maybe if you like it, let us know in the comments down below. But games that are releasing next week, I kind of want to give you a heads up of games that are coming next week. So it's a very quick little feature, but I wanted to sort of mention these ones. So Pixel Ripped is coming out next week. It's coming out on Tuesday, the 31st, and it's going to be available for the PSVR, Oculus, and Steam VR. So if you're interested in Pixel Ripped, it's kind of like you play like a Game Boy type machine, but you play it in VR, and the whole game mechanic is that you have to play the game and complete the game on the Game Boy without being noticed by the teacher and other people in your actual virtual surroundings. Am I right?
Yep. Nailed it.
So that's a really cool game. I'm going to be checking that out next week for sure. I'm really looking forward to checking that one out. Also, just I want to quickly mention out and give them a shout out as well, because they've implemented some really interesting tools if you're recording this content. If you press F10 and F11 on your keyboard whilst playing this game on the Oculus Rift, it will increase your field of view of the game to make it look really nice for a recording. And also you can put a little window of the actual Game Boy window in the corner as well. So I have to like tip my hat to them, because you know we know that recording with the Oculus is a mess right now. So for devs to start implementing stuff like this to make it easier for content creators, I absolutely love it. So
they were definitely on point on that side. Like I watched Frank's video because he played it on the PlayStation VR, and I couldn't see him playing the game on his little Game Boy. So I told him, like, listen, if this comes out and people want to capture this, then be sure to add like a wider field of view, because it's important. And now with this extra screen, it's even nicer. Like it's
super nice.
I just ran into that problem on PSVR. So you've probably all played Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes. Great party game. Tried to play it, you know, from the couch broadcasting. The issue is, however, PlayStation doesn't give you the option you receive on PC to either view the player's view, in other words, the bomb, or the instruction manual. It only allows you to view the instruction manual. How good is it to stream the instruction manual to a bunch of people and a dude sitting in a PSVR headset just feckin' doing nothing, right? I mean, that is not very good.
No,
they're missing out hugely. And given we met the dev at OC4, I'm keen to reach out and say, look, you've got this feature on PC. You're cutting out the ability to do this on PlayStation. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now they know that they need to hide from you when they see you.
Run.
Give them a heads up.
Oh no, it's Doctor Strange.
You gotta give feedback. Watch out.
So the other game that's coming out next week is the game that we're going to be talking about a little bit later on. That's Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, the VR edition. It also comes out on Tuesday the 31st. So you kind of got a couple of options there: Pixel Ripped or Hellblade. But you can choose either between the two. But let us know if you like hearing about the upcoming games, because certainly I think it would be a useful feature. You know, something that I would have liked as well, like knowing about the upcoming games. It's an interesting one for sure.
Also, Mike, can you tell us some more about the links in the description we have here?
Yeah, sure. So we've got a link in the description to our new channel, which is going to be called F Reality. We're going to start streaming there from the 11th of August. So that is our rebrand. The show will be streamed at the same times, but it'll be streamed on that channel. So if you want to subscribe to the channel, go and do that now and turn the notifications on. And that means that when we start live streaming on the 11th, you'll be there and you'll be able to get the notifications when we go live, because everything will be there in the future. So I hope you can continue to enjoy the show from there, put it that way.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's move on to one of our main topics, and that is Marvel Powers United VR. So this week, the game released, and it's made by Sanzaru Games, previously made Ripcoil and VR Sports Challenge. It's an exclusive Oculus title because it's kind of made in collaboration with Oculus Studios. It's a bit on the expensive side. It's like $29.99 in British pounds, $39.99 in US dollars. There is a fair amount of content with the game in terms of like characters and villains. You know, you've got 18 iconic characters from the Marvel Universe, 9 villain characters, including like Thanos, 4 different enemy types, 10 different locations which you can fight in, voice acting and abilities, all in keeping with the characters' sort of abilities and the way they sort of are portrayed in the movies and sort of comic books and everything else. You've got 4-player co-op or single player with AI characters, unlockable outfits and poses, and legendary collectible items. So there is a ton of stuff there if you're a Marvel fan. However, I think the whole thing was kind of let down by gameplay, right? You know, we reviewed this game earlier on in the week, and although we did kind of have some fun with it, the core gameplay loop is sort of an arena wave shooter at its heart, right? It kind of gets very repetitive, unchallenging, and a bit boring after a couple of hours, I would suggest. But you've all played it this week, right? I don't know if you played it, the Zim.
No, I've kind of honestly stayed away from it. There's games that I'm like kind of reticent to touch, and I usually just let them simmer like in a slow cooker. And then I let all the feedback die down. It was kind of similar to when there was the whole spike up of VR chat. I kind of like to sit back and just let people, you know, shout, scream, or praise a game, and then come back to it. Because I don't have the same pressure as a streamer as you guys do of kind of being first, you know? Like if I get to a game 2 weeks later, it doesn't matter. It's still as entertaining. So, you know, being first is not really my thing. And having played that at Oculus Connect, you know, I didn't like it. I mean, I thought it was rubbish at the core. I thought it was rotten, and I didn't think there was much to come from it. Visually, it's come a long way from where it was. So I am still keen to play it just to kind of update. But I'm curious to hear what you guys thought of it, the characters, you know, particularly the voice acting. You know, how was it?
So it's not like the movie voice acting, you know, it's sort of a ripoff, but they do a pretty good job, you know, like they're all in keeping with the characters sort of, you know, persona. But yeah, you know, it's great that you can sort of become the Hulk, or you can become Rocket Raccoon, and you're from their perspectives, you know, from their height perspectives, which is really interesting mechanic in VR, and that you can look down at their bodies and see their whole bodies, you know, their whole outfits. They're so super detailed. You know, you look at the armor on some of the characters, looks really, really nice. It's just the fact that the gameplay loop, like if you missed out on the review, I'll kind of break it down for you a little bit. But when you play the game, you know, single player or with 4 players, it's always going to be the same. And regardless of the location that you choose or character that you choose, the gameplay is always going to be the same. So basically, you go into an arena. The game sort of missions last about 10 to 15 minutes. The first sort of 5 to 8 minutes are sort of protecting these kind of towers. And then after that, then you move on to a generator where you need to put batteries in it. And in between that, you're just fighting waves of enemies, and occasionally you'll get like a boss fight, basically. And then from those boss fights, you collect cosmic cubes, and then you need 25 cosmic cubes to ultimately unlock Thanos and fight him at the end. But interestingly, you know, to get to that point, it probably took us, 6 to 7 hours worth of gameplay, Nathie, to get 25 cubes. Yes. So you're really going to have to play that 15-minute gameplay loop for 6 to 7 hours to grind to the point where you can fight Thanos and try and take him down.
Are you reliant upon the multiplayer factor, or can you roll it single?
You can roll it single and play with AI, and the AI, to be fair to them, do a fairly decent job. But I would say that the game is unchallenging to the point where, you know, one player can just rule over everyone else. So even if you're playing with complete noobs, or your family that are complete noobs, or AI that are complete noobs, you're going to be fine. You know, we never died. And even
the game wants you to succeed.
Yeah.
You know, so no real failure in there. They want you to feel like a superhero that saves the day. And that's why I said in the end, after playing this for 7-8 hours, is it's a game for newcomers. It's an experience for people that just bought their Rifts. And if you look from that perspective, it's a nice game. It's a fun game, and it learns also people to use new locomotion options. This is the first time that Oculus bundles a game that teaches people this locomotion option. We have been always like talking about that. We want people to try it out and to learn how to walk around in VR. There is no teleportation in this title anymore. You know, it's all
there is a
dashing
blink, blink. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but it's not. It's let's say it's more intense than the other experiences they bundled with the Rift.
Yeah.
So let's say from the perspective of new people, I think it's a nice game. It's a really like it's an absolute blast. But for people that have spent a lot of hours in VR, own a Rift for years now, it's not really challenging, and that's what I think is a shame that they couldn't find a balance between those two to kind of bring everyone together. Because I would love to, like I had this before where I met people that were total noobs in VR. They just touched it and I could just guide them through the experience. That's nice. But with this one, I kind of felt like they wanted to get all the noobs in one game, let them play together, let them have fun, let them interact. And that's about it. I just like, it's not very spicy. The difficulty is too easy.
I got a question actually, and there's something that we touched upon with Seeking Dawn as well, and I haven't figured out how to do it yet. It's like, can you turn off all that screen clutter?
No, not in this game.
Because it's funny that the funny thing is, like, if you look at the trailer and I play it again, like, there is nothing in there that is like popping up, like, so they know it themselves that is so annoying for some people, because that is the exact reason why they're not putting it in their trailer, because it is screen clutter and it doesn't convey an immersive experience. And I think that's a huge mistake coming from Oculus, that they do not have an option to turn that off. If they can turn it off, then it's my mistake, then I haven't found it. But
you can't.
It's really annoying, because I think it's for virtual reality, it's so important to have an immersive experience, and I think things like that just ruin it. It just ruins it for me, because I want to be Spider-Man. Spider-Man doesn't see all those things popping up and like, oh, I did so much damage. I don't care how much damage I did. I want the enemies to die. I don't care about how many points I score. I literally don't care about that. Yeah, so I don't understand why that is. And also they have a comfort feature option that you can turn on and off, but when you turn it off, every time you go, well, at least for me, every time when I went downhill something, it still blacked the screen for like a second or two. Why?
Yeah.
Why does that happen? Like, it doesn't have to happen for me. Like, and I can't turn that off. And I find that really that gets on my nerves, things like that. Because I don't think it's a bad game. It's like Nathies said as well. I think it's for newcomers. It's ideal. And I love the powers that they did and all the heroes they introduced. But I mean, the trailer is playing now as well, so the people who are watching can see it as well. It looks brilliant like that, you know? You have no screen clutter, you're killing people, you're throwing them in the air. It looks awesome to do that. But with the game, there is so much popping up that it just ruins the experience for me for a large part.
Somebody in chat was asking, how does it compare to Robo Recall? Because Robo Recall is a game that has a fair amount of screen clutter itself, but actually almost, I would say, goes with the spirit of the game.
You will have a similar experience, you know, because Robo Recall as well is kind of a wave shooter that you progress, you move through. So it's kind of similar in that sense.
Yeah.
I had more, it's difficult to say which one I had more fun in, but I would say that they're both very similar, really, to be honest.
The thing for me is this game, when I first played it, and even now watching it again, there's a great 2D game, which again is kind of lane-based combat, very much like League of Legends or Dota, which is Smite. And I thought that this game, if they did Smite, reskinned it with the Marvel characters, boom, they could do it. You know, with the different scale and sizing, I think that game would sell really well. The way they've done it here, I'm not convinced.
But they do the superhero as well, though. I mean, I really feel like playing the Hulk when I really feel like I'm the Hulk when I'm playing the Hulk, and I feel like I'm Spider-Man when I'm playing Spider-Man. That is a huge achievement if you can do that. And I think for people who like Marvel, this is a really, really cool thing to get. If you don't like Marvel, you're probably not even interested in this game. Simple as.
But I think, like Nathan said, if you're a VR veteran, it kind of is a bit boring and repetitive. Like for me, like, you know, they missed an opportunity, I think, because what they could have made was like the Overwatch of VR here, you know, where you have to choose a tank character like Hulk in your team. You have to have a support character that's going to like heal you up. You're going to have a shooter character and a flying character. And the dynamics of each character help each other out to create this powers united, as the game's called, experience. Whereas it doesn't feel like you're united as a team, because you could have a team of 4 Deadpools and just shoot the crap out of everything, and it's not really going to make any difference.
Like they portrayed this game from the start as a co-op experience where you really need to work together as a team, you know, as the Avengers. But while you're playing it, it will surprise you that there is not really anything you can do together in terms of interaction. Yes, you could say like, "Hey, I'm playing as Doctor Strange. I stun the enemy, and then Rocket Raccoon is finishing it off. Then you get extra points, and that's kind of like the thing you did to work together." But I want to see things where you're Doctor Strange. You have a fireball, and you like cook it up, and you shoot it to Rocket, and Rocket is like sucking it into his like bazooka or something, and then he shoots it away again, and it becomes even more powerful. Like endless combos. Like I wanted to see combos where you really had to do physical stuff, where Rocket Raccoon could ride like Thor's hammer while he was like heading towards the enemy, things like that. So for me, again, it's a great game for beginners, for VR veterans. I don't know, it's kind of arcadey. I felt like they should have just gone for that team-based action. And overall it's a solid experience. I was surprised as well that there was only one game mode in there. That for me is like an unfinished title. That's like launching Battlefield and say like, okay, we have 10 maps and the only thing you can do here is play deathmatch.
Yeah, it's exactly the same.
Because Mike, like the first time I jumped into this like Marvel game together with you, I said like, so next to this game mode, can we also play like villains versus heroes, or can we do more? Like, can we do a deathmatch? Can I play versus you as like the Hulk and you're Deadpool? Can we? There was only one game mode. It's the same thing. It's a loop, and they like I still, it blows my mind, the people that tested this game up front, that they could play this for 8 hours playing the same game mode all the time to get to Thanos and then beat him and then get not rewarded at all. Like
yeah exactly. Like hashtag spoilers, just if you're listening now, that we're going to talk about the boss fight very, very briefly. So just a warning. And for those in the chat, just a warning, just, close your ears for a couple of minutes. But basically when we fought Thanos and we did defeat him, we both had a crash at the end, right? So the game crashed. It went completely white for me, and the game crashed for Nathie, and the game just reset. And then as a reward for beating Thanos, all we got was 7 loot crates. That was all we got. We didn't get the Infinity Gauntlet. We didn't get an epic collectible item that we could store in our virtual sort of like trophy cabinet. Nothing like that. So just 7 loot crates, which was very disappointing. But I think like...
Or a new character. That would be awesome.
So I'm done with the spoilers now. I'm done with the spoilers. So spoilers are over now. Thank you. Thank you.
Like, to sum it up, like you're not getting awarded enough or rewarded enough with things, like you grind so much and you get the only thing they always like treat you with are loot boxes. And I get their point. They kind of want to get that addicting feature in there where you open these loot boxes, but I didn't really care, I just want to level up my character. I want to progress. I want to show some other player that I have been playing this game for 6 hours and that I'm a pro. But it's this, you just like, if you play this alone or together, it doesn't matter. It's very easy. You can do this with your eyes closed. It just all points towards a different target we have seen before. Like usually when Oculus bundled a game with the Rift, or at least tried to promote it big time, it was always a title that blended in for everyone. Everyone could play this, and that's what we want, right? We want to help the newcomers out there to join us into this great adventure of what VR is all about, instead of just having now like, okay, so let the noobs play Marvel Powers United, let the big boys play this game, Like we don't want that. We don't want to get divided. We want to stay together to get everyone excited for VR.
Exactly. And I think like most publications that are in the VR space, had the same opinion that we did, because they're VR veterans, they were disappointed in the game. And I think that's the thing. Like, it's not that we don't like the game. I think it was just we were disappointed because it had so much potential to be more, such a huge IP Marvel.
To be fair though, in the last episode, we did all say that we weren't really excited about this one. I mean, it still surprised me in a positive way, in the way that I really thought the gameplay was going to be bad as well. But the gameplay is... For the small amount what it is fairly solid, it is in that way.
The thing is, like, what I was surprised about was like the prologue, like that was super polished.
That was nice. That was nice.
Really cool. And had there been 4 or 5 different game modes to spice it up, I would have rated the game way higher. Like, and I think the game would have deserved like an 8 or an 8.5 in terms of score. But I think right now the biggest problem right now is that Sanzaru Games have been very quiet about like the reaction of the community and the reaction of the VR sort of publications in terms of the game's rating, because everyone said it was kind of very average, like you say, very aimed at like the beginnings of VR, doesn't really fit very well for the vets unless you're a real diehard Marvel fan. But what we need from Sanzaru Games right now is, okay, we understand your criticisms of the game. This is our roadmap for what we're releasing in the future. But at the moment, they've been radio silent, no update other than the fact that, don't worry, there'll be some free DLC coming soon. Well, I'm sorry, but like an Iron Man, although I would be excited about it, isn't going to be enough. It needs to be more game modes and more interesting, spicy mechanics, like you say, to make the game more interesting.
I just hope they can turn this around, because we don't want Marvel Powers United VR to be a ghost town. Because if you then buy a headset and you then jump into your first game, you're like, where are all the players?
Very good point.
Advertisement, bad advertisement. If there's no one in there, because you can play with AI, but players, like, especially when I got my VR headset, there was no one to play because there was no multiplayer, or at least there was like not something I could just jump in straight from the bat. Now you have that, then make use out of that. Like, let's say if they had their first experience in Rec Room or Onward or somewhere else, like there is a community on there that's always active. If this really turns into like like a wasteland, it's gonna be such a shame, because this game only for me works multiplayer with people that I know, friends, strangers. It's not fun to play with AI. It's just not. It doesn't feel alive enough. If you can, like Mike and I, we played together, we had fun, we worked together, we were kind of communicating, we had a nice chat. I also told Mike, like, you know, Marvel United Powers is also a game where you can just chit chat with your friends while you're playing the game. So yeah, for me, it's like if they bring more game modes, if they bring more interaction, then it's nice. I don't think the interaction part is still going to happen, because the game is so far into development that it's hard to add that. But definitely game modes. You can't just deliver one game mode that is the same in every map. That's unbelievable. You should really bring more gameplay content, because the heroes are nice. They are nice. Like I'm not hating on the heroes. Like I love them. The fact you can see your body and the way they made that, like how the hands move.
That was going to be my question to you guys: was who was your favorite character?
Doctor Strange is an epic character.
He is
an epic character to play, because he can fly, which is awesome. Like flying characters in this game work really well, because you can oversee the whole map. And he's got some really interesting moves that actually feel really nice to play with, right? You can build up fireballs, shoot them out, and you kind of feel that little rumble in your hands. You can trap enemies, which other players can sort of kill.
But all of them have a certain appeal. Like, I mean, I've only played two, like really played them. I've played the Hulk and I've played Spider-Man. I also think that the Hulk is way overpowered, because at my first goal, I scored like 3.5 million points or something by just clapping my hands the entire time. That was all I was doing, just clapping my hands like an idiot. He's way overpowered. Right? There's no cooldown whatsoever. No.
I can tell you now, if you play as Wolverine, you are going to get a workout for sure, because you're going to be slashing like a madman. But this is the thing. Like,
I want to try that one.
It's not like the game is really bad. It's just that I think everyone is just really disappointed in the potential that the game had, that they just didn't deliver on. You know. So.
Because it is a shooter, it is a spell fighter, it is a brawler, it's everything in one. It is. Just bring the community together, you know, share the excitement of VR. Again, as I said before, if they can make this game feel alive for the newcomers, that's the most important part right now. I don't want someone that just bought a headset, gets that lonely experience in a game that is really about uniting those powers, chit chat. You know, that's so. Let's hope for the best. Seriously,
I want single player.
Well, you're gonna be happy about the next game, Rowdy. Let's put it that way. Let's move on then. Talk about Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, the VR edition, because it was around this time last year where I was sort of pulled away from VR and sort of enticed by a pancake game, which happens every now and again. Like this year, you know, it was Detroit and God of War. But last year, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice was one of the games that really sort of pulled me away from VR, because I was enticed by the graphics, the way the game looked. And yeah, you know, I sunk about 7 hours into the game, 100%ed it completely, got all the unlockables and achievements. And I really enjoyed my time with the game. Like, I can wholeheartedly recommend it as a game. You know, in terms of graphics and motion capture, still like one of the best I've ever seen, you know, in a game before. You know, the girl that played Senua, you know, looks like her as well. But she acted out all the scenes. They were all completely motion captured. So it's very lifelike. You really sort of build a connection with Senua. You know, this week, Ninja Theory, the developers behind the game, which are a UK-based developer, they announced that the game is coming to VR. So it's going to get a VR mode, and the VR mode is actually coming out next week. So it's a really short sort of announcement period. I love it when developers kind of drop this surprise bomb on you. It's like, then the hype sort of just goes crazy. Like everyone's like, oh my God, it's happening right now. But I was really surprised. I didn't anticipate an announcement like this at all, but I am very excited to give it a second look now, especially because the game graphically looks incredible. And I've literally just had the Pro arrive. I haven't even set it up yet, but I'm very interested to see how that game looks in the Pro, because, you know, being a very graphic.
I think
If it runs, you know, who knows? Yeah. It might not.
Good luck with that.
Because the devs actually stated that they recommend a GTX 1080 to play this game in VR. And I know that Paradise Decay, who's probably in the chat right now, who can probably tell you as well, he played it on a GTX 1060 and sort of knocked the settings down a bit, but did have a decent experience with the game. So I wouldn't worry too much about the recommended specs. I'm sure he can clarify that. But for those of you that don't know anything about the game at all, like the game follows Senua. She's like a female Celtic warrior who's going through some real inner turmoil. Like, you know, something tragic has happened in her life. And basically she hears these internal voices, which are constantly battling each other to try and force her sort of decision-making. And it's so well done in the game that they recommend you wear earphones when you play the game. And that's because you hear the voices in your head as well. And it's constant throughout the whole game. It's a very interesting mechanic and makes you feel very connected to Senua in a way that you really understand what she's going through. And some of the cutscenes, you know, they're like Academy Award winning, because you see her very up close and personal. She's always very emotional and upset, trying to convey what's going on in her life. And basically, you just follow her through her journey from a third person sort of perspective. You can fight enemies and solve puzzles, but it's sort of broken up in a way that the pacing of the game is very nice. You don't kind of get bored of one aspect. It kind of breaks it up in a nice way that you're kind of doing a bit of both. And overall, I just found the game really satisfying to play. So, you know, it's one that I just wanted to talk about, you know, on the show. But, you know, just be warned that it's not a true VR game in that you're going to be using motion controllers. You're not. You're going to be using a gamepad. But I think the payoff is going to be worth it. I know that Paradise Decay particularly had a great time with it. And you've played it yesterday, right, Nathie?
Yes. Yes, it's very, very nice. Like it's a third person VR game, you know. As I said before, it's a specific genre. Again, if you want to give one a try and you know, have your first experience that way, you know, Moss is a nice entry. Chronos, Edge of Nowhere, Adventure Time, Magic Man's Head Games. Also Alone Together or Along Together.
Along
you know,
Together, yeah.
So there are so many out there, and this is like the newest one in the lineup. It's amazing. Like visually, it's a pleasure for the eyes, and the sounds are as important as the graphics and as the gameplay. Because as you said, like that makes it so immersive. And then when I played it for like 3 hours straight, I just realized that there aren't that many VR games out there that really play with sounds that much in the way this game does. Not in like a whispering way, but at least with a way where you kind of feel like you're in an environment and there are things behind you too. And I don't know, like I never played the game before. It was my first time. I did see them, you know, motion capturing this because it's very impressive what they did with that. I wasn't surprised it got VR support because these developers, Ninja Theory, they also made Dext. Now this is a like VR game, so they made VR stuff before.
Dext.
Dext.
Double
I
X.
didn't really know what it was exactly. Like you had to shoot like things around you on rails, and I don't know. Like it's a while ago I played it, but at least they really had done some VR before.
Quickly here, the chat was also asking if there was PSVR support announced, but the developers, indeed, just like Paradise Decay, as I already said, have said that there's no PSVR in the future.
No.
Yeah. Unfortunately, not. But interestingly, like because you've actually played it, Nathie, did you find that because the third person view followers follow Senua throughout the environment? So do you find any sort of like uncomfortable? I know that you're not probably you don't get susceptible to motion sickness.
I did. Like I used the basic settings because I usually believe that the developers go for the basic settings because they are the best. I only turned on like smooth turning. So apparently, because this game has not been built from the ground up for VR, so when you follow her, the camera does follow her a little bit. But if you need to turn around and you go around a corner, you need to use your thumbstick to turn yourself around. So it's not like the camera does it for you like you have in Moz. So I was kind of missing that. But again, it's not a game that has been made for VR, and the corners you sometimes go to are very narrow. So you do sometimes get kind of like stuck into a texture, and it's like, oh, there's something in my face. It does like push you towards her sometimes to kind of make space, but it did feel like a bit arcadey. But I mean, this game, like, it's an absolute blast. It's amazing. So I can kind of live with that. Giving me the view from like a third person perspective in VR is so satisfying. It's just that it could make you motion sick if you have to turn your a view around all the time. It's kind of like a thing that just happens straight away. So it's not really smooth. It's yeah, like it's back in the old days where you modded like Crash Bandicoot to play in VR and you had to put the camera yourself. But the combat is fun. You do have moments where you're fighting like a mini boss, and it's very important that the camera kind of gets like in the way because the enemy is sometimes like spawning away and then it goes to another place. Sometimes the camera doesn't like turn for you, so you're like, where the heck is the enemy? And then they're just attacking you from behind, and you're like, oh okay. So
I still need to interject here with one quick thing and just say Super Mario 64. That's it. Just with the camera.
The cameras,
I played that one in VR. You could actually you also had to turn the camera there. So that's why Moz and those games are so nice. They just do the camera movement for you in a realistic way. But overall, it's nice. If you're in for a treat.
Paradise Decay has said in the chat as well that there's a guy on Reddit who made a mod for Edge of Nowhere and Chronos as first person. So he's wondering if you can make a mod for this as well. Might be interesting to see that.
It would be super intense first person for sure. Like
nowhere in first person.
When you see this game, it's quite intense because you're fighting these huge creatures as well. And I don't know how that would work in a first person mode. But I don't know if you noticed, Nathy, but because you're like 3 hours in or so. But have you noticed that there is a gameplay mechanic? I don't know if it gets explained at the beginning of the game, but basically when you die in the game, Senua has this kind of black rot on her arm, and the more you die, the more it grows up her arm and into her body. And if you die enough times, it'll get to her heart, and then it'll be game over, like literally, and then you have to start from the beginning again. There's no saves or anything that you can go back to. It wipes your save, and then you start at the beginning again. That's
I played it on normal in case I want to play some more, and I do have to say, like, even on normal, it was hard. Like, I was trying to beat an enemy for like 10 minutes, and I was like screaming. I was angry. I was like, die, and I don't know, like I played about like 2 hours of it, 3 hours. I don't know if I'm gonna play it again on my channel because I do feel like third person titles are amazing to experience yourself in VR, but to see it on YouTube, it's not very, it doesn't really, like, it's not the same. It's not the same. Also, another thing that I do want to say, this game, as you said, like, has a lot of cutscenes. These cutscenes are not in VR. They just show it in like a cinema look, so you're just like staring at the cutscene.
Oh, that's a shame. That's a shame.
Yeah, so it kind of goes to like film borders, and then it just shows you it in a tiny screen. I don't think it was ever like gameplay. It's just like pre-recorded. They play between the game as a low render mechanic.
But it's a shame that you don't see her in 3D and feel like that kind of connection with her. That's a real sort of shame. But I guess it's just a limitation of the game because, like you say, it was never made for VR initially.
I'm curious, Mike. So you played this, right? Do you feel for this or other titles that you've played before that you kind of got a piece stolen from it now that it's coming out with a VR patch? Like, you're kind of like, oh, I could have played it in VR for the first time.
Not necessarily. Like, I played it on a really nice monitor, and like at the time, you know, there was no other game like it that looked as good at it as it, you know, like I was just completely blown away in terms of the way the game looked and played. It's only really sort of games since then, like Detroit, that have kind of matched it in terms of its graphical fidelity. You know, God of War as well is a beautiful looking game. But no, I wasn't disappointed, but I'm really super intrigued to go back and try it again, because it was a great game. It was one of my better games that I played last year. So yeah, I am excited about checking it out, but you know, it's not going to be available on Oculus, just so you're aware. It's only available through Steam. If you buy the original Pancake game, you'll get the VR edition for free. So it's not like they've got a separate edition, which is really good to hear. The game is available right now, so you can pick it up for $24.99 in British pounds, $29.99 in US dollars. So it's a decent price for this game. About 7 or 8 hours worth of gameplay, I think you'll get out of it. To 100% it.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah, so that is Senua's Sacrifice VR edition. So our final bit of news this week is that Windows Mixed Reality, if you own a Windows Mixed Reality headset, you're going to be happy to hear that this week Microsoft are pushing an update out to their insider builds, which adds a flashlight sort of portal that shows you around the real world around you, which is kind of interesting. I'd love to know as well in the chat, if you've got a Windows Mixed Reality headset, let us know in the chat. I'd be intrigued to know if you've tried this or you're interested in checking this out. But basically, you can access this feature anytime. So when you're in a game, when you're in the menu, when you're in Cliff House or whatever, you just press the start menu, or there is a voice command to enable it as well. And what it actually does is, once activated, you see a sort of portal of the real world through the cameras, portrayed through the cone of a flashlight. So you actually control the flashlight in your hand, and then you can sweep it around, and that little flashlight cone will show you the real world around you, which is kind of like an interesting mechanic.
So
like
that's basically mixed reality right there.
Yeah, don't get me started on the name.
No, but it is. Like now it finally is in a way. Now it makes sense.
But this is the interesting thing, because they said from the beginning that the front-facing cameras were never going to be used for a function like this. They always kind of said that the front-facing cameras were always just there for the tracking abilities, but it just seemed that there are some possibilities there to use them at the same time for this mechanic.
I love like the marketing they did on this feature. Like if you go to their like page, their update page, you see like someone in VR, and you see them using the portal, and there are like 2 people there. There's one guy with like pizza boxes.
Yeah,
the other one is only,
like, I found the picture. I put it up
like,
right now.
Yeah. So that's what
time.
So the person is playing in like a Minecraft environment, and then you see that portal of 2 happy stock footage people holding, you know, a pizza and like beer. It's the most funny thing ever.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But I think something like this would be handy, you know, like if you want to see what's on your monitor for the recording, or someone's walked into the room, you want to say hello or something like that. But
they should do like a delivery man with his post, you know.
Just open the door with a headset on. I'd love to see the reaction.
Wife, you know, like, hey, you should get out of VR, you know, like maybe they should choose Frank's girlfriend.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
but, I'd love to know in the chat, like if you've got a Windows MR headset, that if you've used this feature, or you want to use this feature, or maybe you don't have a Windows MR headset, you've got a normal VR headset, but you'd like a feature like this so you could see what's going on around you at times. Because, you know, we're completely blinded off to the real world right now. And I'm sure front-facing cameras and stuff like this will become the norm in the future. Like they are available on the Pro, you know.
Yeah, 2.
So it'd be interesting. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they utilize them.
Even the Vive had it, but I started using it at the start because it was kind of cool, but I never use it anymore. Like I just put my headset up if I want to drink something.
It's a developer tool at the moment, I think. Like, you know, just like that USB port, you know, like nobody really uses that unless you have like a Leap Motion or something. But it's more to like, you know, give the developers option to experiment, and you know what doesn't work gets filtered out in the next iteration, and what does work stays. And you know, it's pure for development purposes that they put these things in, I think.
Yeah, because with the Vive Focus, they now track your hands too, and you can like use your real world to play kind of like an AR game. So it's kind of, and there were even demos for the Vive Pro, right, where you could use like the real world to play around with.
Well, yeah, like Alvin Graylin, who we watched recently this week on a chat with Charlie Fink, was talking about the Vive Focus, and he was having like people in marketing videos like skateboarding with one on their heads and doing like parkour with one. I was like, dude, like I don't know how this guy's like seeing this.
Golfing there also, like if you follow him on Twitter, like they are golfing. Like the most extreme things. I don't know. Like apparently it's possible.
Surfing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So if you've got any questions you want to ask in the chat, like ask them now, just while I wrap up the show with all the sort of the details. So just a reminder, it's a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show, live streamed every Saturday on Nathies YouTube channel. Tune into the show at 7 p.m. in Europe, 6 p.m. in the UK, 12 midday in Central US. If you missed the live stream, I re-upload it to my own YouTube channel every Sunday at Virtual Reality Oasis. Or check out the audio version, which is available on Google Play Music, iTunes, and on SoundCloud. Just a reminder as well, like the show is rebranding. So from the 11th of August, we'll be launching the show from our own dedicated YouTube channel at F Reality. There is a link in the description down below. So go and subscribe to the channel. Yes. Make sure you hit the notification button as well, so you're updated for when we go live, and then you won't miss an episode of this show in the future. So if you've got any questions, now is the time. We've got a couple of minutes before we wrap this one up. So
we got a question coming from Reality Virtual FR. Did you see Blunt Force, an upcoming game? I haven't heard from it yet.
Not yet.
Nope.
Haven't heard of it.
I like the name though. Good
Blunt
name.
Force. Yeah.
Blunt, is it? Do you have to smoke a lot of weed? Is that what it is?
I don't think that's what they mean. It's got to be like a SWAT or cop simulator.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Someone's also asking, are the new controls for Moss better? They updated it, I think, for the Vive. Like, they updated with like when you're playing it with like the controllers itself.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I haven't tried it. Like, I haven't finished the game, so maybe there's a reason for me to go back and kind of use the new controls to see.
Right, because initially, Moss, you played it with the PS4 controller, right? Yeah, exactly. I only ever played the game on the Rift. I only played it on PSVR for like 5 minutes, but I have to say the motion controls on the Rift, and I'm sure they'll correlate to the PSVR as well, work so well. You know,
so you played it with the motion controls, not with the gamepad?
No. I played it with the gamepad for like 5 minutes. Then the rest of the time was on the Rift with the motion controls.
So you did play with the motion controls?
Exactly, yes.
Can you play it with like a gamepad on PC?
I don't think so. I'm not sure.
You really need to pull things, and you need
exactly
to, like and on PlayStation the gamepad is obviously tracked.
Exactly.
They should make a tracked gamepad, right, on PC.
It works so well with the touch controllers because you've got the thumbstick, so you can control Quill with the thumbstick, and then when you're grabbing items in the world and pulling them out, it just works seamlessly. Like, you know, the whole design of that game. Hats off to the developers. So intuitive to play. Graphics visually looks amazing. Sound amazing. Quill is adorable. Yeah, it's such a great game. I can't recommend Moss enough, really. So yeah, definitely go and check it out with the updated controllers for sure. Definitely worth going back to. And there is going to be more, of course, because this is just book one. So there's going to be more Moss in the future.
There's one more. Someone that says, I am still waiting for a VR chat meetup with the crew. I think us.
Yeah.
That is going to happen in the near future, where we, you know, meet up with you all and we hang out. We will also be at Oculus Connect. So if you are let's say in town, if you live in the USA, then we are going to be there. We will unite our powers.
Yes,
we're going to show them how real teamwork is getting done.
And this is going to be interesting because it's going to be the first time we've all been together in real life, right? You know, we've met up individually between us, but we've never all been together as a group. So it's going to be very interesting indeed. But certainly, like you've asked the question, you know, when we do the rebrand, we definitely want to do more interactive stuff with the audience, and we want to build this sort of community that sort of enjoys the shows and we can interact with. So, you know, you never know, we might have like a post-show meetup every sort of month or something like that. So we'll finish the show and say, okay, in 30 minutes, we'll meet you in VR chat or Rec Room or another platform. And then you can just hang out with us there, ask us some questions, play some games with us, whatever you want to do. But yeah, we certainly want to do that. And it's definitely something we've discussed behind the scenes.
Well, the person that wanted to meet us is going to Oculus Connect. So,
there you go.
Nice one. And then last but not least, we have one that is easy to answer, I think. Does VR benefit from SLI, or is it just better to buy a top-of-the-line single card? SLI doesn't, no.
For games in general, not only VR, like games in general, the majority of them don't support even SLI. No. They only work with
you can't get benefits, though. I ran for 2 years with an SLI configuration of 2970s, not realizing the second card
wasn't enabled.
Well, things were running a bit better. But what was actually happening was certain other applications. So I was streaming and things, and the streaming encoding was happening on the other card. So I did see an improvement, but it wasn't actually the SLI doing it. So although they were bridged, that is not, just stay away from SLI.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like I used to run dual 780 SLI maybe a year and a half ago, and I would never go back to SLI again in my life. I don't think. Just go for the highest card that you can afford, and just run with that until like the next few updates pass, and you desperately need another one.
You can still have 2 graphics cards. I mean, I have 2, and they're not SLI. So yeah, if you want to run like.
I mean, I have 2 as well, but it's for like recording purposes. So
yeah,
it's nothing to do with gaming.
2 headsets as well.
And they don't need to be the same card. That's an important thing as well. So you can, if you've just upgraded and you still have the extra slots on your motherboard, just slot the second one in, dedicated to other tasks. You can actually do some of that config on your PC, and it will alleviate the other cards.
The other card, yeah.
Really good way to get performance out.
Yeah, you could dedicate
work with
it to
your
like
processor.
physics or something like that. Yeah, you could.
Some pro PC tips here.
Pro PC tips from 4
I'm going to
noobs.
give you one last one before we close, which
Sure.
is it took me 10 years after the standard came out. So PCIX, whatever I call it, the current PCI slot for graphics cards, you have an X16 lane slot, and you have a 2-lane slot. The 2-lane slot cards can go in the 16 lane.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
A lot of people don't know that. Yeah,
I was like, I had one slot. If you have like a capture card or something, they often use a 2-lane. And I was like, I gotta get a new motherboard and all that kind of stuff. And finally, what dawned on me to kind of do a Google, hang on, can I? And you can. So
there you go.
Wise words from Dr. Zim.
More pro tips. You learn something new every day from this podcast. That's why you should tune in every week.
Also, link to the new podcast in the description and also in the chat.
Yes, so go and do that right now as the show ends. So I hope you guys and girls have enjoyed this show, and I hope you have a good week in the metaverse. And until next week, bye for now, and hope you have a good week. Take care.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.